The first thing that shattered the calm afternoon was the sight of two tiny figures sprinting across the sunlit café terrace, their cheeks streaked with tears, their matching dresses dusty as if they had fallen more than once. Adrian Harlow had been staring at the untouched second coffee cup on his table, wondering for the fifth time if he'd been stood up, or if fate simply had no interest in giving him a break, when the twins skidded to a stop before him, gasping for breath. One of them clutched his sleeve, her voice trembling as she cried out the words that ripped his world open. "They beat our mom. She's dying. If you believe in kindness, hope, second chances, please take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness. Your support helps more stories like this reach the world." Adrian's heart slammed against his ribs as he stood so fast his chair scraped loudly across the pavement. He had come here expecting rejection, maybe embarrassment, but not this. Two desperate little girls with hazel eyes wide with terror. Their names, he would later learn, were Arya and Nola, 7 years old, trembling so hard he could feel it through their tiny hands. Without another thought, he grabbed his phone, told them he would help, and followed them down the street toward a narrow alley behind a row of quiet, daytime shops. The sky was bright and harmless, yet every step felt darker, heavier, as if the world had shifted into a place where cruelty walked unseen. They reached a corner where a woman lay crumpled beside overturned cardboard boxes. Her hair, a cascade of auburn curls, was matted with dirt, and bruises already shadowed her pale skin. She looked barely conscious, whispering her daughter's names as Adrian knelt beside her. He tried not to panic, but his chest tightened at the sight of her shallow breathing. He called emergency services, his voice shaking as he explained everything, his free hand gently squeezing her arm to keep her awake. The twins clung to each other behind him, crying softly in fear. As they waited for help, the woman opened her eyes long enough to whisper her name, Sienna. She tried to apologize for the trouble, which nearly broke Adrian's heart. He reassured her that she wasn't alone, that her girls were safe, that help was coming. The minutes crawled by like hours, but finally the ambulance arrived, sirens cutting through the daylight. Adrian helped lift the girls inside, refusing to leave them alone, and rode with them as the paramedics tended to Sienna. At the hospital, he learned the truth. Sienna was a single mother working 2 daytime jobs, walking home during her break when she interrupted a theft behind the store where she worked. The thieves panicked and assaulted her before fleeing. She had dragged herself far enough to send her girls searching for help. Adrian sat with the twins in the waiting room, offering them the comfort he wished someone had once given him during his own years of loss and loneliness. Their tiny hands wrapped around his, trusting completely, a trust he felt he had somehow been waiting his whole life to earn. Hours later, when the doctor finally said Sienna would recover, the relief washed over all 3 of them like sunlight after a storm. When Adrian walked into her hospital room, Sienna's eyes filled with gratitude and confusion. After all, was a stranger who had stayed for hours without obligation. Adrian admitted softly that he was actually supposed to be meeting someone at the café for a blind date. Sienna let out a weak, surprised laugh, saying fate apparently had different plans. In that quiet room, with monitors beeping gently and daylight pouring in through the blinds, something subtle and warm passed between them, a recognition of 2 people who had been wounded in life, but still capable of kindness, hope, and connection. In the days that followed, Adrian visited often, at first for the girls so they wouldn't feel alone, then for Sienna because he found himself drawn to her courage, her warmth, her quiet strength. Began as a terrifying twist of fate slowly unfolded into something unexpected and beautiful. They weren't rushing it, but the bond was real. Sometimes love doesn't arrive in perfect packaging, sometimes it stumbles in wounded and afraid, carried by 2 little girls begging for help.